Tonight, a sickening question. Did a 9th grade girl help arrange the gang rape attack on her own classmate? That's what authorities in Monroeville, Alabama suspect. They say a 14-year-old girl was brutally raped by 3 men here in this house you're about to see just last week. There it is. Investigators say 3 males, a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, and 20-year-old Stephen Scott went to the home with 2 14-year-old girls before the start of classes that day. Cops say the young men took turns assaulting one of the girls and afterwards brought both girls back to school. They say the injured victim was left to sit in her bloody clothes for hours until school officials finally called police. Those injuries were so horrific that the girl required surgery and was kept in intensive care for 3 days. Why did it take so long for somebody to notice something was wrong? Meantime, what about the victim's so-called friend, the other 14-year-old girl? She provoked the wrath of the DA when she did a TV interview after the crime and said, well, the victim knew that sex was on the agenda and that it was all consensual.
Yes, we all agreed. And I said, Steve, I have a friend on the other line. She want to have sex tomorrow. He was like, oh, okay, that's fine.
The victim admits it did begin with consensual sex with one of the boys, but then it turned into gang rape. The DA was fuming when he heard that female classmate's comments, given that the victim needed surgery after the sexual assault. Says the DA, I am exceedingly angry, and you can quote me on that. And the DA says he may now use that female classmate's comments as a justification to charge her as an accomplice. But is that legally justified? Why would a teenage girl allegedly procure her friend under false pretenses to have sex with a group of guys? And tonight's big issue, the frightening consequences of a pack mentality. Straight out to my expert panel, Judge Karen Mills Francis, host of Judge Karen and former Miami-Dade County Court Judge. Darren Kavanoki, criminal defense attorney, legal analyst for The Insider, and our very own voice of reason, Steve Kardian, former criminal investigator and director of Defend University. Belisa Vranich, clinical psychologist and author of the new book, Get a Grip, Your 2-Week Mental Makeover. I want to read that one. Tonight's big issue, the frightening consequences of a pack mentality. Last month, cops say 3 adults and 3 minors gang raped and robbed 15-year-old Richmond, California girl. Police say at least a dozen people witnessed the attack, which lasted 2 hours, but they failed to call cops. Now, just last week, cops say 16-year-old Carvette Gentles was dubbed the babyface shooter. This was a New York case. You can see why when you see his face. There he is. Looks like a young kid. NYPD cops say 4 young men affiliated with this youngster were in a gang and had targeted another male, but the bullet meant for that male hit a 15-year-old girl who was just walking by. Then a bunch of Florida kids are accused of setting a teenage classmate ablaze over a dispute over a video game and a stolen bike. It goes on and on and on.
Jane,
yes.
You know, the pack mentality has been a problem for time immemorial. And of course, in these other cases that you allude to, there's also this bystander apathy that happens. But remember, generally speaking, a bystander or a witness to a crime does not have an affirmative duty to act unless they played an active role in creating the danger in the first place.
Straight out to Steve Kardian, former criminal investigator. Steve, here's my question. These 3 males, allegedly, after the alleged rape, take the 2 girls back to school, the 2 9th grade girls. One of them has been gang raped, according to police. The other one, we don't know her story. We're trying to figure it out. There's a lot of conflicting information. Why does it take school officials hours before they realize something is wrong and they call police when the rape victim is sitting in her bloody clothes at school for hours?
Jane, the crime of sexual assault in a school. It's a mandatorily reported case. This was a crime of forcible compulsion. It wasn't a statutory rape case. And the forcible compulsion has with it aggravating factors in that she received a serious physical injury and that it was a gang rape. And this gang mentality, they tend to feed off of one another and they try and one-up each other. That's what makes this such a vicious crime.
And it's happening over and over again.
We're
Stories of
reacting-
violent sex assaults are horrifying and outrageous. We don't want to make it sound like it's only happening in the inner city. I mean, there's
It's
nothing
happening
new to the public.
everywhere.
Do you remember the case of the preppy killer, Robert Chambers, in 1986?
New York.
Robert Chambers, nicknamed the preppy killer because of his boarding school upbringing, pleaded guilty to killing 18-year-old Jennifer Levin after an episode of what he claimed was rough sex in New York Central Park. So, he was a kid with all the advantages in life, and he ended up having a similar problem. Violence.
Jane, I think it was a perfect analogy to Lord of the Flies. What happened in Lord of the Flies? There were no parents. These children have no parents,
Exactly.
and nobody
starts
is
in the
raising
home.
these children.
Yep, it starts in
Schools
the
can't
home. It
do it
starts
all.
with the family
Thank
dinners.
you.
It starts with all of those
Fantastic
things.
panel.